welcome another first-time speaker, Ashley. And I realize I'm not sure of the pronunciation of it. Is it Torres?
Torres.
Torres.
Yeah, that's the Anglo way. Torres.
Ashley Torres. And Ashley will present part one of her two-part topic, activating heart-centered living and integrating a higher cellular frequency. So part one today is, next week is part two, accessing higher energy and heart opening.
I want to just set these on my table. This is all kind of part of the presentation that I'm giving today. And I'm just putting a picture of Jesus, Yeshua, known as Yeshua ben Joseph, who walked the earth, and Mother Mary, and Mary Magdalene, and Isis. So, and I'd like to light a candle also.
I'm wondering if we could go around and say names, our names.
You know, I only have 45 minutes.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if, I don't know if I can still have the 45 minutes if we do that or not.
We can introduce at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if we can turn off the sound
Yeah.
or speak louder or something.
We can.
We cannot shut that off. So speak louder, Ashley.
Sure,
So-
sure. So just to make sure, do I have 45 minutes? And then, or 1 hour? Because originally I prepared for 1 hour, and then I heard it was only 45, so.
Well,
Sometimes we go quarter after, and I think that would be okay, right?
So maybe I'll just,
have to be out for something else coming in, otherwise you could go on all day.
so an hour is comfortable for everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
I might wrap it up a little earlier. It's wonderful to be here, everyone. I mean, really wonderful. I was so looking forward to this. I'd like to take this moment just to connect a line of light from my heart and just going around to everybody's heart. Just take a nice, slow, deep breath in, and let's connect heart to heart around the room. And Michael already invoked the Holy Spirit, and which is something that I, always do before I speak. I'm really honored to talk about heart-centered living. Some people call it, Christ-centered living. Other people, really louder even? Okay. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I had a loud voice.
It's really loud this time.
Okay. It's often heard of as Christ-centered living or heart-centered living, and some people refer to it as living in the flow. And it's a nice concept, and a lot of us are achieving that. But it's not always easy when like as an example in the cities, people are very stressed. They're overextended, and so it's hard to access, an open heart at all times, and it's part of the polarity that we live in, the yin and the yang. So I'm taking a different approach today to this subject, and also we've had a lot of trauma, a lot of heartbreak, and so that causes scars on our heart and wounding of the heart, and we also bring it in from past lives. So all of this affects being able to live, with an open heart, heart-centered living. And so we're living in an extraordinary time right now. All of you know, this is a very conscious group here, very, very conscious group. That's why I love this unity. Soon to be changed, the name. We all are very aware that this is an extraordinary time that we're living in. The Christ consciousness that was birthed so long ago is now really unfolding, and it's blossoming, and there's just a tremendous amount of awakening happening all over the world. And there's been, waves of movements that have helped to bring this forward to where we are at now. And I'd like to talk about, to go back to the time in Egypt, when Jesus, who, as the man, he was Yeshua ben Joseph, and he was a man that made an agreement, a contract to take on the Christed energy. And there are accounts where it was actually, at times it was difficult for him to hold those frequencies in his body. And he was a very strong man, he was a carpenter, but he held so much light that at times it was a little taxing. And so some of you may already know this, some of you may not, but Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary were both very, very trained. Everything was very specifically designed to support Yeshua while he walked on this earth. And they were trained in the alchemies of Horus and Isis, the magic of Isis, to support him. Mother Mary was extremely psychic and clairvoyant. And she was a very unique child. She was extremely independent. She was stout. She had all brothers. So she had a very interesting childhood. She really learned at a very young age that she had to carve her own way because of all her brothers, you know. So she was a very independent little girl and individual. And Mary Magdalene was trained from 12 years old in the teachings and the practices of Horus and Isis. And it was all specifically for her meeting with Yeshua. And when they met at the well, it was no accident. And when they met eyes, they instantly knew, you know, they just knew instantly that they understood, and in a flash, they saw the whole picture, that this was the moment, you know, where she was going to start activating all that she trained for since 12 years old. And then she next glanced at Mother Mary, and Mother Mary recognized Mary Magdalene from her Ka body, because Mother Mary was so clairvoyant, and she could see her electrons in her body, and so she recognized her from the house of Isis. And so that's where everything, you know, really began. And Yeshua was going to need that in order to fulfill his divine purpose, which was to be, you know, brutally beaten and tortured, and to bring this Christ seed at that time. It was a very, very dense time, very dense time. I mean, not like today. It was so dense then that it was, the agreement and contract that he had made was really tremendous, tremendous. And he needed a lot of support, and he got that from Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary. So part of the training, you know, that they experienced was working with the serpents to raise the Ka body. It's raising the electrons in the body, and many other practices, many other things. But it's at that time, it kind of took shape over time through different cultures, through different periods in history, and then there came a big movement, you know, with the 60s, and they were talking about free love and mind, body, spirit. You've heard that a lot. And then the yoga movement, you know, where a lot of attention has been brought to breath work. Well, this is all along the same vein, and it's to get us to wake up. You know, it's to get our energy moving, to get us to activate. So now today, you know, fast forwarding to today, how do we access, you know, this heart-centered living? If we've been wounded, and if we, you know, when we've been scarred and hurt, we tend to unconsciously put defenses up, you know, little walls up, you know, and we work with it with the healing energy, you know. But sometimes the wounding and scarring is so deep, you know, so a lot of us will use different modalities to heal that. So this can create a block, and it can create denser energies. So a lot of people are going through like a lot of big challenges. You know, I travel quite a bit, and it's kind of mind-blowing when you leave the Kootenays to see what people are going through. You know, it really is. And I have a lot of compassion and caring, because it's quite, all I can say is I just have so much compassion, you know. You know, to see people so pushed, it's so overextended, just to be able to meet, you know, their needs, you know, just to be able to put food on the table, to be able to have a house. You know, in Sedona, where I'm from, when I left a couple years ago, I knew of 3 women that were living in their cars. You know, just times are really changing, And I always have a saying, you know, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And even though it seems so challenging, it's really to help redefine you, to help push you, you know, into having a breakthrough, if you will. I certainly went through a tremendous initiation over the last 5 years, and it was really, really, really dense, really challenging. And I was teaching this program, and you know, like about 4 years ago, it became very challenging for me to do my own program, to do the breath work, to do the yoga, to do the meditation. So, you know, at one time or another, we all go through different cycles and we go through changes and we hit hard times. So these mysteries that were put in place so long ago, and now it's just blossoming everywhere, like with yoga, with breath work, and everything I mentioned. They're all put in place to assist us, you know, in being able to work through all this density, you know, when we go through hard times. And so I'm going to start with the body, and I'm going to take a quick look at my notes to make sure I didn't leave anything out. Yeah, there's one thing that I do want to mention. When I was talking about the time that Yeshua ben Joseph, you know, walked the earth, and Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, and they were all being extremely supported, you know, by the hierarchy, and ISIS was, you know, very much supporting them. What Mary Magdalene was doing is she charged Yeshua's body. You know, I already mentioned that, building his ka, right? And Yeshua would draw from Mary the powers of Isis. So together they learned how to produce this alchemy. And it's often misunderstood. You know, even in the yoga movement, it can be very misunderstood what was taking place. It was extremely holy, extremely holy. It was the alchemy and the union was so beyond anything we can. I can't even imagine, with Yeshua and the light that he held in his body, and Mary Magdalene, how profound that was. So I just wanted to mention that he would draw from Mary Magdalene, from the powers of Isis, to build and strengthen himself, and to fortify his soul with power, to fulfill his purpose. So they would activate the serpent power to do that, which, you know, she was highly trained in. So mind, body, spirit. So we've heard that a lot. The body, I kind of skipped ahead a little, but that's okay. Well, before I go into the body, I do want to talk about something. So how can we identify when sometimes we don't even realize that our energy is getting a little dense? And believe me, we all experience it. You know, I don't care how evolved we are. We experience density in life. That's what we're here for. We're literally the only species out of all the planets that can transform density into light. We're the only species that can do that. That's why Earth is a very exciting place to live, and a lot of souls wanted to experience living on Earth that weren't granted that grace. So it's a real opportunity for us, you know, and that's why we're here. We're supposed, like, a lot of people have a misconception that you know, it's kind of a spiritual elevation if you're not experiencing a lot of density. You know, I personally know a few people that I love dearly. One of them, you know, was very close to me. My spiritual partner, who was a priest for 10 years in this lifetime. And he, you know, he now has come out of that whole misconception, and that idea, you know, some time ago he came out of it, that you just experience the light all the time. You have to be in your body. You have to be you have to be grounded. So it's very important that you balance the earth energy with you know, with source energy, and you balance them both. We came here to experience density and to experience transforming density into light. So when we experience lower frequencies, like say we get bummed out, or something traumatic happens, which happened to me. My mom passed away, and it took 2 years with hospice, and this is where, you know, this all really came to the forefront for me, because I was doing so great in teaching classes, and then all of a sudden I hit such a bottom. I got exhausted. I could not, after 2 years, do all my power foods, my superfoods, and, you know, teach these classes, and I thought, oh my gosh, what's happening to me, you know? But the beauty that came out of that experience is I got to really understand and have compassion for myself, and I got to see that that's what life is about. It's about density, it's about light, it's about learning to manage it all and learning to transform the density into light. And as we embody more and more of our mastery, we get to become better at it, faster at it, you know, and so that's a lot of fun. And so that's what I'm talking about today, ways that you can raise your frequencies, ways that you can shift. Really easy little things to do, you know, that can shift you out of a bad mood. You know, my brother always had a saying, and I love it. I love this saying. He used to say, like, don't go into your mind. Like, say you're bummed out about something and you keep thinking about it. He goes, don't go into your mind. It's how did he put it? It's a bad neighborhood. Like, it's like going into a bad neighborhood, you know. And I would always think about that. Like, if I would get, you know, bummed out or something, and you know, just like. I have a saying, I always say, you know, let's not labor it, okay? Let's not labor it. Let's not go over and over it, like, let it go, you know? And it's not about being in denial. We acknowledge what's happening. And then we find, you know, we're not victims. We find proactive ways to help move ourselves out of it, you know? And granted, there are some things that are much harder to get over than others. Like, it took me a while to get over the whole experience I went through. Watching my mom transition so slowly, you know. But that's the beauty. These mysteries were put in place to help us. So this is all part of living heart-centered and living in the Christed energy. Accessing more from our heart, you know, and something I have to do all the time. I am a very loving person, and I was told that I have a very deep capacity to love humanity. But even at that, you know, I have blocks in my heart. I have to constantly work on it, you know. And it's exciting to watch, you know, a shift happen for me, and where I'm really dropping, you know, dropping those defenses, dropping, you know, the protection, you know, and our greatest strength lies in our vulnerability, and that's something a lot of people have a misconception. I certainly did. You know, I grew up with a very, very talented, very gifted father who was also very, very hard on us. And so I would see vulnerability as a weakness. And I was in my 30s when my spirit guide told me, it is in your vulnerability that you have your greatest strength. So society had kind of, you know, taught us that our vulnerability is a weakness, and it's the exact opposite. It's in our vulnerability that we have our greatest strength. So really just opening your heart and being courageous enough to just, you know, let it hang out there, you know. And you have to feel safe to do that. So with the body, also some of the denser frequencies that we can experience, okay? You know, when we're feeling uninspired in life, just uninspired, kind of flatlining, or we're feeling lonely. I've experienced all of this, you know, many times. You know, feeling resigned in life. And it's very subtle, you know, because a lot of us are very evolved and conscious beings. Like, you know, it's the subtleties that we're working with here. You know, it's not always blatant in our face, you know, and then all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, I'm actually kind of flatlining. What's going on, you know? It's kind of taking a look at that, taking a look, checking yourself out. You know, having fear, regrets. And then it can go into depression. And then it can also go into blaming others, a little bit of the victim identity, the martyrdom. You know, there's just such a wide range of experiences you can have, you know. And then another one is filling the voids artificially. So say we're bored or we're lonely, you know, instead of, and we're not able to really access higher frequencies. So we might start doing emotional eating or drinking, or there's just so many ways. So it's important that I share that part, because now on the flip side, these are the higher frequencies. It's being inspired in life, you know, really being turned on about life, you know, about where you live, about your community, about your friends. joy, laughter, this is very, very high frequencies, being in joy. That was very challenging for me after I lost my mom, because I actually got ill, and I could not find my joy, and I'm actually still working on that right now. And one way that's really helping me is playing with my granddaughter, because I'm like, how am I going to access this joy? Because I've always been a very joyful person, and so, when you feel engaged in life, you know that you're not feeling engaged in life when you're in your car and you see something, you kind of duck out, and you'd rather not talk to people. You go in the grocery store and you're kind of avoiding people. That's when we're not really engaged in life. And so, being engaged in life, feeling grateful, taking responsibility for your life, accessing your creativity and your passion. So how do we shift from these denser frequencies? And we experience both, remember? It's the polarity, we experience both. How do we get into more of the higher frequencies? So starting with the body, a lot of us know some of this, but sometimes doing it is another story. So moving your energy, energy gets stuck, right? That's why they talk about, go for a walk, go for a hike. Energy gets stuck, and what happens is, because everything is energy, and after a long time, your energy gets stuck and it becomes more and more and more dense. So moving the energy, finding a way that's compatible for you to move your energy. Sorry, just gotta do one thing here. Finding a way that's compatible for you to move your energy. So some people may not be able to do yoga. Yoga is a fabulous way to move energy. If you can't do yoga, you can do stretches, going for a power walk, going for a hike. Is that me?
Oh, sorry.
Oh. Just finding the ways to move your energy. Rebounding is excellent. Rebounding also affects the lymphatic system, and they have rebounders with handles on them. So people of all ages can use rebounders, and because of the gravity, it actually works at an accelerated rate. So like what you do on 10 minutes on a rebounder is equivalent to an hour at the gym. And it works out your whole lymphatic system as well. So rebounding is really excellent and easy. And eating nutrient-dense foods. And I'm going to ask Shayna to help in distributing. I actually made a super smoothie this morning, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this. There's not enough for everybody to have a cup. It's just, you're just going to have a little taste. But just eating nutrient-dense foods, this raises the light in your body. So eating more of a plant-based diet, like fresh, spinach, vegetables, you're actually bringing light into your body, and you're adding more light into your body. So eating nutrient-dense foods is very important. This that I whipped up this morning are raw apples, all organic, of course, bananas, and a real superfood product. I actually brought it so everybody could check it out, called Elite Protein. It's brand new on the market. It's, all my nutrition gurus are talking a lot about this new product called Elite Protein. And it has chlorella, spirulina. It has so much in it that I can't even go into it all right now. I know Riviera knows about it.
Does it have wheatgrass in it?
I don't think it has wheatgrass. Well, then you better read the label to be sure. Yeah. And so there's wild blueberries, but it tastes absolutely delicious. And what I also added was a very high frequency oil called Citrus Bliss. And essential oils are very high frequency, so you can actually put an essential oil in your shake too, just to bring up, we're talking about raising the frequencies, right? So plant-based diet brings more light into your cells, actually adds light into your cells. And something like this, you can have one glass in the morning and it's equivalent to 3 green salads. So I'm going to just show you something for a second here. I'm going to grab something. You know how difficult it would be to eat this, like in one day? Because we're told we have to eat our greens, we need 3 servings of greens, right? Well, in the one smoothie that I have in the morning to start my day, I have 1/3 of this, you know, or maybe even half of this. Now this is a huge tub. It just goes into juice, but it doesn't taste terrible because then I've got blueberries and banana and raw apple with it, so, and the other good stuff. Now this is an oil that I added to it, and I'll just pass it around for people to smell. It's a very pure, very high frequency called Citrus Bliss. So again, we're talking about how to raise the frequencies in the body. So, you know, moving the energy and eating nutrient-dense foods. Your water is extremely important. Good water, really good water that oxygenates your cells. Purified water. We have a good source here, so, you know, we're extremely blessed. You know, I also have a water machine as well. And cleansing, you know, Yeshua, he did a cleanse every week, and a lot of the saints that walked on the earth, you know, they did very little eating actually. You know, they were constantly cleansing. I wish I could have brought this one paper that my colonic guy in Sedona gave me. It was mind-blowing. It's from the Book of Thomas. And I don't know if you know about this, Dan, but there's a whole account of how people would do enemas on themselves during that time, you know, with the gourds. It's kind of mind-blowing. So this has been going on for, you know, for centuries, you know, cleansing and colonics, enemas. That's how you are able to get into higher frequencies, you know, by doing cleansing, by letting go. Because when you let go of matter, you're also just letting go of energy, you know, you're letting go of the past. So that's the body, and then moving into the mind. Let me see if I missed anything on the body. Yeah, living foods have an extraordinary ability to heal the body and the mind and the soul. You know, I have personally experienced such a transformation in my life. You know, I grew up in I kind of lived all over, but when I was 13, I moved to Los Angeles, and that's where I had my daughter, Crystal, and I brought her up, you know, very dense frequencies, dense city, and I worked full-time, and I worked in corporations, like Fortune 500 companies, and I was very stressed, you know, and I didn't have any of this available to me. I didn't know how to shift my energy, but I knew that when I went to the gym, I felt better, you know, and I knew that when I ate salads, I felt better. So, you know, I was kind of scraping the tip of the iceberg at that time. Enzymes and probiotics, very important. Enzymes and probiotics, I know a lot of you already know this, but for those that don't, they purify the blood, purify the blood. Enzymes equal life. Enzymes, we use up our reserve pool after like 35 or 40, more like 35. We don't have a lot of enzymes available to us to digest our foods. So supplementing with enzymes will give you a lot more energy. If you find that you get exhausted after you eat a meal, it's because your reserve pool is gone. There's no more enzymes there to digest the food, you know. So eating enzymes will give you a lot more energy, and it cleanses and purifies you. Sometimes proteins go into your bloodstream. So probiotics, they purify your bloodstream, and enzymes do. So like in this smoothie, I put enzymes in them. And it's a great way to start your day, you know, and it's raw apple juice, so it doesn't taste yucky.
What
Even
form
though-
of enzyme, may I ask?
Pardon?
What form of enzyme?
Well, that's a whole other subject. That's a whole class. Because, you know, just the way they're made. I know that Udo's is a very good brand, Udo's, but I have a brand from my nutrition gurus that, you know, I get in the mail and everything. Another one, a good one is Digest Basics. If you're just in the store and you Digest Basic is a good one. But it's not the best. And we can get a little crazy with all of this too, you know? Like, we gotta remember that, and you know, and I did, certainly I've been there, you know, with the whole, you know, vegetarian thing. I mean, I am vegetarian, but after what I went through with my mom, it really readjusted my whole approach to everything, my relationship to everything. We all do the best we can do. And my nutrition guru, I call her that, it's not, you know, as a kind of a joke, but she's just so incredibly knowledgeable. You know, she went through to be a naturopath. And her whole, you know, her views really shifted after the 4 years of becoming a naturopath, because she said she just realized how much she doesn't know. The more she learns, the more she doesn't know, you know? Because a lot of, everything has to do with our belief systems, our belief systems mold our consciousness, you know? So there's just so much involved. But today I'm just talking about mind, body, spirit, you know, how to get into higher frequencies so that we can access more heart-centered living. And with the mind, clearing the mind, of course everybody knows, you know, meditate, that's great. But for some people, meditating isn't easy. Like when I would give a talk in like cities like Vancouver, everybody's very pushed, rushed, you know, and a lot of people are A-type. There are a lot of people that are ADD. I mean, I have a loss for the word, epidemic of ADD, ADHD, you know. So how do people like that are really like in the squirrel cage, their mind's going, how do they settle down to meditate? And I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I certainly have. One approach that really helped me, and I was able to get into some very deep meditations, and then as you progress, you take on more and more teachers to take you to the next level of meditation. And one of my teachers is Yogananda. You know, I absolutely adore Yogananda. I love him. I was with him for 7 years. He's still with me, but where I was really doing all the practices. I had to get to a certain place to be ready for a teacher like that, you know. So in the beginning, I started with Jack Kornfield, and it was more of a visualization meditation. And I was so hyper. I used to drink coffee, and I was like a mad woman, you know. Like I was an interior designer. I'd be just like zipping around the city, like oh my gosh. And I was very spiritual, you know. But wow. So one of the things that helped me was walking meditation. And then where I had my biggest breakthrough was chanting. You know, I really, got into chanting. And chanting is so powerful because of the vibrations that every vowel holds. So when you're chanting, the vibrations are very, very powerful. And so you have to get into the space to be able to go into a meditation. So you might need to go have a good workout. I accidentally had this routine, and it wasn't done on purpose, but later on when I was learning, you know, through ISIS and through the masters about all the alchemy and, you know, how the mysteries and how to access more light in your body, I realized, oh my gosh, that's what happened back then. I was having all these spiritual experiences, and you know, I was very, very just bumping along, very naive. I didn't know much about like what we know today. And what was happening is I was going and working out at the gym, pumping iron for 2 hours before I would go open my art gallery. And so I would go to the gym, I'd have a good workout for 2 whole hours, and I'd come home and I'd shower, and then I'd sit and meditate before I was going to go to work. I would open my art gallery at noon, nice hours. And every time I would just go, like all these things would happen, you know. Well, I had no idea. It's because when you exercise, you raise the frequencies in your body. When you move that energy, you get that stuck energy moving. And you open the way, and you're able to access more light. So I made that connection much later, you know. So breath work is important. And then when you do meditate, of course, what you're doing is you're replenishing your light. You know, you're bringing more light. You're connecting with our Divine Mother, Father God, our beloved friend. And it's very, very, very powerful. And in that place, you know, when you really connect, it's, you know, which I try to access throughout the day to remind myself that, you know, I'm spirit having this earthly experience. You know, we're not these bodies. We're not defined by our outer world. We're not our trauma. You know, we're not even our excitement. You know, we're spirits. And we came here to experience this very, very important time on this earth, this exciting, very exciting time. Centering. Thanks. Centering. I'm going to pass around this wild orange. I love this. It's amazing. And put a drop in your hand, if you like. There's nothing artificial. These are very, very pure, and the lengths that they go to explain how pure these oils are is amazing. And do this, and this is all part of the experience of raising your frequencies. I use oils a lot to help me raise my frequencies. It's really amazing. It smells incredible. I love the wild orange. So with the mind, centering is really important, you know, especially for the divine feminine. And this is what Mary Magdalene was telling me and Mother Mary. The wounding that has occurred for the divine feminine has been in our third chakra, our power center. And this comes from past lives and maybe this lifetime. It comes from being very abused and being suppressed, you know. And so there's been a lot of wounding and scarring there. And for the divine male, the wounding is in the heart. Again, for a lot of men, it comes from past lives and this lifetime for sure, where men have been taught that it's weak to show to experience their heart. Men were very empathic, you know, and it's been lost along the way. Now, the men here in the Kootenays, you know, it's a different story. You know, they're like really doing great, you know. But there are a lot of wounded men, and I'm sure, you know, we are all working on these things. I mean, I still am working on my first, second, and third chakra from all the trauma and scarring. And I'm sure the men in this room are, you know, can also work on their hearts some more. So bringing in the energy from Mother Gaia, from the earth, you know, dropping cords, brand new cords into the center of the earth and drawing up energy helps us to get grounded. And it helps us to center. Especially for the divine feminine, it is very, very, very difficult to be grounded. It is no accident. It's not you. It's not personal. It's all women. And this is what Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary shared, that women have really been knocked off their center. So they have to do a lot more work as light workers, just bringing up the earth energy and grounding. I today am sitting on a piece of pyrite. Pyrite is a very powerful grounder. The mineral, this is a mineral. It's amazing. And whenever I give a talk, if I'm going to sit, I sit on it. I even sit on it when I meditate to keep me, just pull me and get me grounded, you know. So grounding is very important, centering. And you can work with Mother Gaia and just, like I said, drop cords and just draw up her minerals in her earth, you know, anchor into the crystalline core of the earth. Another thing that we all know shifts energy is toning, singing, vibrations. So moving the energy, you know, eating high frequency foods, plant-based, bringing in more light, and you know, breath work. I would like to try something right now. You know, we have gotten so many little gems from so many avatars, masters, saints throughout the centuries. The mystics, you know, the Islam mystics, they did Sufi breathing. And Sufi breathing is very, very powerful to bust open your chakras, you know, to get things moving. So I'd like to do a small example of that right now, if whoever would like to participate. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep breath in, and then we're going to focus on our first chakra, and we're going to slowly move up each chakra, like the first, the second, the third, and 4, 5, 6. Now, for those that may not know, and I know this may be redundant, but I'm going to just say the first chakra is at the core here, the second is here, the third is the power center, and that's where women are wounded. The fourth is the heart, where there's been a lot of wounding for the men. And then the fifth is the throat, the sixth is the third eye, and the seventh is the crown, okay? And then there's the eighth, where the Christ consciousness is, over your crown. And a chakra, it has an opening in the front like this, like round, and it goes back to a point, okay? It's like a cone. So it's round like this, and it goes back to a point. So we have these chakras. Actually, there's more than, you know, 7 chakras. There's more than 12 chakras, but that's another class. So we're going to work with the 7 chakras. So we'll start with the root, and I'm going to mention that for each chakra there's a color. So I'm going to just say the color, and we're going to focus on the breath work, but also have the intention to charge up that chakra with the color. So the first chakra is going to be in ruby red, okay? So take a nice slow, deep breath and really feel your diaphragm with air, you know, just nice and deeply. And then we're going to breathe out short breaths. There's gonna be about 20 to 30 chakras, like that. And what will happen is you'll automatically wanna take a deep breath in. So that really gets the energy moving. So go ahead and take a nice, slow, deep, long breath into the diaphragm. Keep going, and as you're doing this, imagine your chakra spinning clockwise in ruby red. You're charging up your chakra now. Activate, 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 charge, charge, charge. Activate, 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 charge, charge, charge. And now, just go ahead and breathe normally. And now we'll take a nice deep breath in, and we're gonna go into the second. Now, normally this is something that you would do for 45 minutes, and you'd go up all your chakras and down all your chakras and then up all your chakras again and go into meditation. And that's a very powerful experience. I mean, that's where my program was birthed out of that. When I did that for the first time with David Sarita, the whole conscious living program was laid out to me in detail, and I was just blown away. I was living in Vancouver, and I thought, what? I'm gonna teach classes like that, you know? So this is a very powerful modality. So take another slow, deep breath in. And focus on orange, pumpkin orange, neon orange, and the second chakra spinning clockwise. Take another deep breath in and do the second chakra again. Now we're going to go to the third chakra, and we're going to have the intention of sunshine yellow, lemon yellow, and spin it clockwise. Take a nice slow deep breath in. Take a nice slow deep breath in. We're going to go to the heart, and we're going to bring in the emerald green healing energy. Let's do the heart one more time. Take a nice slow deep breath in. Great. Now we're going to move into the throat, and we're going to imagine sky blue, cerulean blue, spinning clockwise. Take a nice slow deep breath in. Often our energy gets really stuck in our throat chakra, of course our heart, of course our third center, all of them. So, you know, and also if you want to access your divine gifts, you know, your alchemy out of your third eye, it's a, you know, really powerful modality to do the Sufi breathing. Now we're going to go to our third eye, and we're going to imagine the violet flame, beautiful, like vibrant, you know, violet color, violet flame, and spinning clockwise. Take a nice slow deep breath in. And focus on your third eye. Oh, and pardon me, sorry, I forgot to tell you something. We're not going to breathe with our mouth. When we get to our third eye and our crown, we just breathe in through our nose, okay? So let's start again. Now at some point you'll find you start taking some really deep breaths into your diaphragm, because things are starting to move. Locked energy is starting to move. And now another nice, we're going to go into our crown now, and we're going to do the same breath. Take a nice deep breath in, charging up your crown. so this is where you go into your meditation. So you get into these really high frequencies, you're moving the energy, and then you can just sit. And this is just one round, so imagine doing 3 rounds, you know, and it really opens up the channels. And again, these are all part of, you know, the mysteries, these little gems that were left for us. And so, you know, you're able to go into quieting the mind and listening to your inner direction, your inner guidance. So that's body and mind, and now the spirit. You know, we talk about replenishing the spirit, you know, bringing in the life force energy so that we can just pulsate with life force energy. You know, Paramahansa and all the yogis, they taught pranayama. Pranayama is bringing in life force energy. I learned from, you know, from a lot of yogis teach different things. So I learned from Yogananda 36 energization exercises. And at first it takes like an hour to learn them, but then once you have them down, it takes 15 minutes. So like I did that this morning, you go through 36 and it's really activating the life force energy in every part of your body. It's really powerful. So there's just a lot of ways that we can replenish the spirit. The chakra clearing, which I just showed you, is a great way to bring in more life force energy. And very important, I love feng shui, and you know, feng shui can be taken to many different levels. I know that Master Venus, Lady Venus from the planet Venus, she loves beauty. She's the goddess of beauty and order, and she is a big fan of feng shui also. Clearing clutter is so important. If you have any clutter in closets or in the garage, anywhere, that's where dense energy will collect up, and it'll keep collecting, and it affects your life in profound ways, because that dense energy, it's part of you, you know, it's part of your energy, and it can really affect you in ways that you wouldn't even believe, you know. So clearing your clutter, bringing order into your home, you know, keeping your home clean is all really important too for your spirit. Very important part of your replenishing your spirit. Just having your home as your sanctuary, your temple. And also, all the ascended masters and archangels, especially now, you know, the veil is practically gone. My friend, my spiritual partner, the veil is gone for him. You know, he just broke that veil, you know, the other day, and I'm so happy for him. You know, he's just been doing a lot his whole life, and that veil is gone. You know, and I know other people have experienced that, you know, experienced you know, enlightenment, and there's different types of enlightenment. You know, there's, you know, the long lasting, then there's you know, when you experience it for like a minute, but the masters are really wanting to work with us, and they're saying that they feel underemployed, you know, because they can't interfere with our free will. We have to invoke them. They actually want us to direct them, and that's how I work with all the masters, you know, and I work with many. I invoke them, I direct them to assist me in my life, you know. Yeah, it's a very, very powerful tool, and there are different masters that hold different frequencies for different purposes. They each have a very important role to assist this planet in its evolution. So, as an example, Archangel Michael, he's the keeper of the sacred fire of love. A lot of light workers call it the blue flame, but you know, he's actually said it's the sacred fire of love. And this sacred fire of love, it's a purification, it's a sanctification. So before I did my talk today, you know, in my spiritual practice, I had to sweep through here with the sacred fire of love, and I called on Ascended Master Saint Germain. Saint Germain is the keeper of the violet flame. This is such a powerful tool, you guys. Whenever I go into dense cities or I'm traveling, and you know, some of the areas I've been through is really quite shocking to see how, well, in the United States, okay, it may not be so much in Canada, but you know, the poverty and the dirt and the you know, the filth that some people live with. Like it's a regular United States area, and there's just garbage on the streets, you know. And so I will call in Saint Germain, and I'll do like a big, one of those, I don't know, the tractor that has that big thing that goes out like this, I don't know what that's called. And I'll invoke Saint Germain and just bring the violet flame in. And a lot of the light workers that I associate with, you know, we do this, you know, and we do a lot of things, you know, in the mornings. I lead 2 4 a.m. meditations during the week. It's Monday through Friday, but I lead 2 of them. And we work a lot with the violet flame for the planet, for the healing of the planet, to transform and transmute the dense energy. That's what the violet flame's for. So you can use the violet flame in your chakras. If you've been traumatized, if you've been hurt, if you're angry, you can literally transform and transmute that energy by using Ascended Master Saint Germain and using the violet flame. I've used Archangel Michael, you know, for purification, for sanctification. He is the key. He is the authority of miracles. That's how it's been. That's what he has said, that he's the authority of miracles. So you can invoke Archangel Michael for miracles in your life and for protection. For protection, whenever you need protection, he's a real fierce warrior, you know, a warrior of the light. And so these are just little tools, but they're very powerful tools. And you can get it down to a science. Like I used to have a 3-hour practice every morning, 3 hours. And then I had to leave Sedona very quickly, kind of got catapulted out of Sedona. Actually, it was, I was being called by ISIS and by the masters, and I was kind of there too long. I was there for 6 years, and I got catapulted out of Sedona. And at the time, I thought, oh my gosh, what's happening? I had to throw everything in storage, and I didn't have a home for 2 years. I was just traveling. And that traveling trained me how to access, you know, all that I am, all that we are. It's who we are. But how to access that anywhere, anytime, you know? And I still love doing my practice. I love, you know, certainly using all these tools, you know, to loosen up any dense energy and to bring in more light. But you know, I can do it, you know, I can labor it and take 3 hours if I want, if I have a day off and I just want to enjoy myself and be in those frequencies, or I can do it all in 1 hour, you know, like this morning. But it's really nice to know that we're being very supported here, very, very supported. Mother Mary has so much compassion for us, and she's the one who really emphasizes that we came here for the human experience. We came here to experience density. We are, you know, just very blessed to be able to experience transforming density into light, and that's a lot of fun. I call that wielding and yielding light, and it's fun, you know. When you really start to access that, it's a lot of fun. So, oh, what's this? What is this?
It is water,
Water.
different water
Oh, really?
that you can feel.
Oh, thank you. Okay, great.
Ooh.
I think I'm feeling everybody's energy in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can use it over yourself, or you can touch it if you there are holes.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Where is it from? There you go.
It is from. Can you say it? You can say.
It's Ormus water.
Oh, Ormus water.
Yeah.
Great, wonderful, cool. So that's an overview on how we can access more heart-centered living. How we can
Use
access,
it now.
you know, the Christed energy. Just, you know, moving our bodies, moving our energy, doing breath work, doing stretches, doing yoga, all helps to open up our heart and to get into, it's easy to talk about, but really how do we access more? How do we bring in more light, you know? So I have personally found this extremely, extremely effective. And next week we're gonna go into some healing for the divine male and the divine feminine with Mary Magdalene, and we're gonna do a heart activation, and we're gonna do a healing of the wounded divine male and divine feminine. And it's really cool that this is during the time of Christmas, you know, it's kind of nice timing. So if anybody has any questions, you can see me after, or I can also email you the outline of the talk. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.